Howdy everyone, I'm the Shadow of the Hawk, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Apologies about the lighting, I am trying to sort it out. This is the best I could do right now. I'm gonna see what the opinion about this is. But what is this video? Earlier today, The Great Book of Grudges, an amazing YouTube channel for getting into Warhammer, specifically Warhammer Fantasy, as of late due to his focus on Total War Warhammer content, but just in general, really good Warhammer guy. Go check him out, he's amazing. And he recently dropped a video talking about the humans of the Southlands. Now, for those of you who don't know what Warhammer lore is or need a refresher, the Southlands is Africa. It is basically just Africa, because Warhammer is the real world, but copyrightable and full of monsters and fictional races like ogres, dark elves, high elves, wood elves, dwarves, totally not rat people, lizards, devil goat things, etc., etc. And there's not really much known about the quote-unquote Africans. You have Arabians, which are Arabians. You have Nehekarans, which are Egyptians. You have the Orcs, which are not black people, they're Orcs. If you think they're black people, you're the racist. You have the lizard men, who are Native Americans, that are lizard people. I set myself up for that joke. I'm gonna get insulted. You have a few external human powers, like the Empire and Britannia have set up a few colonies, but the actual quote-unquote African analogs, there aren't really much known about them. Like, the Great Book of Grudges brings up in his video that we only know of one named Southlander. We know they like trade, we know they have princes, and we know they hunt hippos. That's about it, really. That's all we know. So I thought, because I know a little bit more, thanks to this book, Google, and the Nigerian Perspective, go check him out, he's a really good channel. I know the average American knows dick all about Africa. I know a little bit more than dick all about Africa. So I am totally qualified to make this video. And if you know more about African history, mythology, if you know like any of this cool stuff, reach out to me. I would love to know more. I would love to talk about this stuff. And if I get anything wrong, let me fucking know. I want to know. So, because we're talking about Warhammer, we need legendary lords. We need a campaign to get around. What would be an interesting campaign? Well, I've got 3 characters in mind. The first is based off of the mythical figure Siod. The second is based off the historical figure Amina of Zarya. I believe that is her name. I believe that is where she's from. I cannot remember specifically. I am 90% sure that is correct. And then the third is not based off of anyone in particular, but it's based off the trend of West and North Africa to be hubs for the mean word that Mama Susan doesn't love, slavery. Yeah, West Africa and North Africa, horrible dens of slavery, even before European colonizers showed up. But let's leave the evil for the last. First, Siod. Who is he? Siod is basically the King Arthur of Africa with a dash of Tubal Cain mixed in. He is the rightful king, well, not the rightful king. He was the son of a king, bastard son, more specifically, who was just amazing. He was a blacksmith, he was a warrior, he knew how to use a canoe. And his brothers, his half-brothers, didn't like him that much. They were like, dude, this guy's gonna take our throne, fuck him. His father figured that out and warned him, Siod, your brothers, they're assholes, run. And so he did what daddy told him to do, he ran. He went home to his mother's tribe, and he taught them metallurgy, he taught them how to use canoes, he taught them modern warfare, and the Nupe, that is the tribal group that he was assigned to, or rather that he came from, ended up becoming the dominant population of that region. Hence, King Arthur mixed with a bit of Tubal Cain. So what can I see for this Siod type character? Well, either this is Siod, and this tribal reformation is a recent development, or Siod is the Sigmar of Africa, of the Southlands, and he is a man-made god, or rather, he's a human being who ascended to godhood, and these tribes worship him and have gathered around one of his descendants. Either option could work. The general mechanics would be balancing the different tribes. You would have a few different tribes that you need to do various actions to keep happy, and if they get too low, you suffer revolts and negative penalties, and if it gets really high, you get really, really good bonuses. I could also see a Forge of Siod, where you can spend resources and money to construct items to buff up your heroes and your lords. Maybe one or two other mechanics more akin to Africa, such as tricksters, which African mythology loved their tricksters. absolutely loved. Anansi being the most popular within African culture. So something involving tricksters, perhaps. Like you get trickster riddles, and you need to solve the riddle, and if you solve the riddle, you get some sort of cool buff or item or boon for a period of time. The next individual would be Amina of Zaria, as I mentioned. Amina of Zaria was a Central or Eastern African queen. I can't remember which. Nigerian Perspective has a really, really good quick YouTube short about her. You can also probably find more about her on Google. She was a renowned cavalry commander and a queen who never had a king. She ruled by herself, she never married, and every village she went to, she had a new husband. So this would be a very, very good, like, just all-out kill campaign. But what I think would be more interesting is she had her kingdom, she forged her kingdom, and was driven out by the third faction. This being evil slaver people. You see, because Africa has, West Africa specifically, which is about where the Southlands black people would be, West Africa and Northern Africa were horrible dens of slavery. Why not tap into that for the bad guys, right? Like, the Empire has roots of their history from the High Elves coming over and helping them. Why not give the Southlands a portion of the Dark Elves? The Dark Elves went to Naggaroth, but maybe some went to the opposite extreme and went to the Southlands, where they basically Leopold Congoed the local people until, through humans being humans and breeding with the Druki, eventually the Druki were gone, leaving a population of lighter-skinned, taller, evil people who, the whites basically of Liberia, who oppressed their fellow Southlanders and created a few evil cities of slavery. Going out into the world, taking slaves, building an empire on slavery, just being absolutely evil people. So you've got a good person in Siod uplifting people. You have a neutral person in Amina who is trying to just conquer shit. And then you have evil people in the form of insert evil name here, trying to, be an evil son of a bitch. And I would really, really like to actually have evil son of a bitch. I know a lot of people are going to be in the comments going, no, you can't represent Africa as bad. But it would be an interesting opportunity to have non-chaos evil humans. Like, I can't really think of any good examples of non-chaos evil people. Like, yes, you have individual people who are cunts that aren't chaos, but you don't have a civilization that is non-chaos evil. And I think that's a horrible wasted opportunity. I hope Ind and Koresh, the humans of Ind and Koresh, are more nuanced and have evil aspect, tend more evil than good, unlike Bretonia or the Empire, without having any chaos influence. And also, this isn't going, well, Africa's bad. Siod and Amina's populations would represent the good, or at least the very neutral, of Africa, as well as some great history and mythology from them. So, what would I see for units? Well, for Siod and Amina, these would be more traditional African units. I say traditional African. These would be the ones that are more Southland-based. Tribal populations using bronze or iron or maybe even stone, but these would be cheap, rallied together, rallied by their faith in their trickster gods. Maybe some sort of missile resistance mechanic. I believe similar to orcs. And this might even be the inspiration for the orcs thing with this, but don't quote me on that, how African tribes were encountered where they would paint themselves with, paint, and these different paints, depending on what the paint was, would do different things. Like, if you covered yourself in blue paint, it made you invulnerable to pain. If you had, like, let's say, red paint on, it would make you, your blows hit stronger. Perhaps something very similar to that. Now, I can definitely see CA and Games Workshop not wanting to do that because that's already a thing that Savage Orcs have, and that might draw too many parallels between the Southlanders and the Orcs, which I would understand them not wanting to do, but that is based in African history. That would be something interesting to see happen. But these are, again, like just your lower tier units. These would be your peasant units. What would be some more actual combatant units? I don't know enough about African history to, like, say what would be a good middle tier, like what would be your spearmen with shields or your swordsmen, aside from the Zulus with their cow hides and their spears. But even then, that feels like, for Warhammer, that feels a little bit too on the low end. So if anyone does know, like, what would be a good middle ground, aside from just Africanized Empire swordsmen, which I really don't want to go that route, I want something a bit more African pizzazz, let me know in the comments down below. In regards to their cavalry, their monstrous cavalry, their monsters. Africa has a lot of really, really cool things they could use. Rhinos, hippos, crocodiles, elephants, tigers, lions, etc. Then you could also throw in some, Warhammer fantasy stuff, draw on some African mythology. I don't know any good African monsters, per se, but maybe you could draw on the myths of Anansi. Have, like these spider centaur type people. Maybe the African version, or the Southlands version of the Beastmen, but they're not necessarily chaotic, that they're willing to work with the tribes. Maybe because they're not as developed as the rest of the world. And you could have these monstrous cavalry that are centaur spiders that worship Anansi and brought the worship of Anansi to the humans. Amina, I could easily see her being someone who's willing to work with the outside world and possibly gets special units that are more inspired by Arabi and the High Elves, using foreign weaponry and armor, an elite corps of cavalry that is incredibly expensive and inspired by foreigners, but shows a level of progress by her. The evil cities would use a lot of slave units, not just, do not model them as just Southlanders. Throw in Imperials, Lizardmen, Bretonnians, like just every race being enslaved. You would then have elite corps of Southlanders, free Southlanders, from these like evil city-states. You would then have like the elite corps which have the blood of the Druki in them. And then, foreign mercenaries, Norskins, Vampire Coast, Druki themselves, maybe even orcs as well. Like these different groups as like sort of very similar to the Chaos Dwarves, or maybe even Talea, like an evil Talea. I think would be really, really, really cool to see. And then for like monstrous creatures, elephants is really the only thing that's coming to mind. Maybe giant snakes, if that's something. I mean, most human cultures have a giant snake myth. I imagine the Africans have one or two. So yeah, that's just my quick little video on what I think would be an interesting route for CA and Games Workshop to go with the Southlands. Obviously, there's a lot of gaps there, like general infantry, a lot of more mechanics than what I suggested for Seod. I don't really have like lord options, hero options, magic, etc. Again, because I need to learn more about African mythology in African history. And I hope that this drives people to do something similar to me, to research the colorfulness that is human civilization. Because, frankly, the world is more beautiful than just Europe. It is glorious. And the fact that we just keep turning back to Europe, and I'm not just talking about, like, right-wing conservatives, I'm also talking about you lefties. I'm talking about you fuckers who think it's okay to grab a can of spray paint King Arthur, or spray paint Cleopatra, or spray paint Achilles black, and go, it could have happened because ships. No, we should look at actual history, actual mythology, the beautiful state of mankind, and put it on a pedestal for the world to see. This is me. I'm the Shadow of the Hawk. If you stuck around for here, thank you all for watching. If you don't like me, leave a dislike, leave a comment down below. Let's get this conversation started. Have a good one, everyone. Apologies for the horrible lighting. See you next time. Peace.